Hello and welcome to the DM's Book Club, a podcast where we read about some Dungeons & Dragons and discuss how we might include it in our campaigns. This is a special two-parter, which I'm actually quite excited for. It'll be interesting to see how well it goes when we're both a little bit sleep-deprived and we both had our own incidents with coffee and tea. But as ever, my name is Fiona and I'm joined with me by the excellent and wonderful Ryan. Hello, Ryan. How are you?
I'm very good, tired, sleep deprived, but otherwise very happy to be here. How are you?
I am also very happy to be here. Doing well, thank you.
You'd think we'd master our own lives a little bit, knowing that we've got this session every 2 weeks, but I was just telling Fiona I managed to make myself a cup of tea and sever a tea bag almost entirely, thus just spewing the tea all over my kitchen, and that was fun.
Yeah. Sounds very British as well. It's a British problem. Yeah,
I think so.
So Ryan, what have you got us today? You sort of messaged me saying, I've got a two-parter, don't worry, you don't have to do anything. And that, as someone who always plans ahead, gets me very anxious. But I'm
it's
intrigued.
resting control. No, so we've spoken multiple times about world building and throwing different ideas into D&D, and the idea that as a DM, sometimes you just need to go for it. People need to volunteer and have a go. And one of the biggest obstacles I find people have is creating that first session, the first dip your toe in the water moment where you think, that was really good fun. Actually, I can do this. This is good. And for some people, that involves picking up a pre-bought campaign or a pre-bought module of some kind. We've spoken about loads of kind of interesting ones involving everything from turtles to looking into the guides. I think we've spoken about Asmodeus, and you've got things like Descent into Avernus now, which is just prepaid modules that you can do. Strahd is, I think, a fantastic one if you want to play vampires. But we're going to be talking about building your own first session. And as a concept and topic, it's such a huge, scary one that if you read the Dungeon Master's Guide and just sit there with a piece of paper in front of you with nothing on it, or a Word document or a OneNote or whatever organization you use to try and create something, it can quickly become just so daunting that you never start it.
Yes.
So what we're going to do is over 2 sessions, we're going to have 2 different goes at doing it from the totally different ends of the spectrum. So this session, what we're going to do is we're going to go from small upwards. We're going to start a level 1 first session from a very small settlement, and we're going to build it and create the first session together. And next episode, we're going to do totally the opposite. We're going to go from big down. We're going to create an entire world, literally in the space of about 20 minutes, and then we're going to funnel in enough until we can do a first session on it.
Which way do you normally do it then when you're creating for your campaigns?
I kind of do a combination of both. I think I build the world down normally because I tend to get very carried away with, I read lots of sort of fantasy books in different worlds, and you can look at something like Tolkien, for instance, in Lord of the Rings, and you look at the wider map, and I love having a look at it. I'm thinking of sort of computer games. I've literally in front of my desk, I've got a huge poster of Tamriel, which is the Skyrim Elder Scrolls world, and I just love huge maps and kingdoms. So that's what I did with my campaign. I kind of went big, but then I switched over and then started in a very small place in order to get the first session. So we're kind of a mix of the two. And I'm interested to see which one you prefer.
Me too, because I'll say this for the record, I have done nothing like this. And instantly, as you said, you could find it a bit overwhelming. I instantly would go, oh no, this is way too much. It's like, again, I've seen that as a writer sort of thing. You see the blank Word document, you go, oh no, I've got to sit down and write. No.
I know. So some just quick caveats before we get started, and things that you may want to consider having in front of you if you ever want to give this a try. And I'd really recommend you try this alongside us, because you'll be amazed at what random rubbish your brain can come up with. And anything that sounds rubbish to you, I can guarantee will be really cool to somebody else, because they don't think like you think, and they will see things in what you've done that seem much better than how you. I mean, if anybody's like myself, I tend to be very judgmental of the things that my brain comes up with until until I spew it at other people and they go, oh, that was really interesting. And I think, really? Was it? I don't know about that, but sure.
Sensor, yeah.
Exactly. So there's lots of different ways you can build this. And we've spoken about using a pre-built module like the Curse of Strahd. If you buy the book, you can just run the module and it's absolutely fine. Another way of doing it is to take a module and basically reskin it. We've spoken about reskinning monsters before, where you take the stat blocks of something and you change the names and description, because after all, D&D is a descriptive game. It doesn't matter what is written down, the way you describe it is different. So there's nothing to stop you, if you were really ambitious, taking the Curse of Strahd and changing the names of everything and creating it into a campaign which is identical fundamentally, but sounds totally different. And one of the ways I actually created a city in my campaign was I took the city of Saltmarsh, which was way back. I think they did a Saltmarsh campaign book in 5th edition, but I took one from 3.5 and reskinned the city into a city called Ybrit, which is fundamentally exactly the same, but nobody would ever know. This is the third alternative. This is where we're going to create from scratch. We're going to have a look at the Dungeon Master's Guide, which is really, really handy. We've got Xanathar's Guide as well, because it's got some really good naming tables, but you don't need any of that. The third and most important tool is Google or any other search site you want, because I can guarantee if you're stuck for names or ideas, Google will have something for you.
So here we are. We've got pen, pencil, books, if we need them. We've got internet up. Where do you start when you're trying to create your own sort of small to out, essentially?
Well, what we need to do is set some ground rules for the world. Right. So we're going to start with a couple of very big concepts. We're not going to go into them in any detail. Anything that is bigger than the walls of our little town, we're not going to worry too much about. But there are some core assumptions that we're going to just very quickly talk about that are essential to any D&D campaign. And these are as follows. We're not going to change any of them. We're just for now going to assume that we're using the core D&D rules. So number one, gods oversee the world. The idea to this is that in D&D, all the gods are real. Nobody can refute their presence, but maybe only the people connected with the divine can channel their power. So you've got different gods of evil and good and nature and storms and fire and undead and all kinds of different gods, and clerics, paladins, those sort of things can channel their power. Maybe druids can as well, but not everybody follows a god, but nobody can refute the fact that they exist. That's kind of one of the D&D core policies. Second of all, much of the world is untamed. So the idea is that most of the known world is totally uninhabited, wild, and riddled with monsters and dangers. And our settlements that we're going to make are sort of little bastions of safety in that otherwise untamed and crazy world. Number three, the world is ancient. So the idea being that this world has existed for way beyond our tiny imaginative brains can come up with. So there have been kingdoms beyond the kingdoms that we've forgotten about. So all the way through the world, there are sort of remnants of old civilizations that have been lost. And essentially, this is what gives us the idea that dungeons exist. It's kind of one of the main things there. Number four, conflict shapes the world. So at some point, you've got different factions or kingdoms or organizations, and they fight each other. It may not be open war. It may be competitive war. It may be the remnants of a war that happened before. But the idea is that everything is not at peace. And fifth, the world is magical. So again, one of those fundamental issues or sort of assumptions with D&D is that basically magic exists and that classes of certain, things like clerics and bards and wizards and sorcerers can all cast magic, and magical items exist. But magic practitioners are very few and far between. They're definitely not the major sort of default to the world, and magic has a value to it. So those are the sort of, we're not changing any of those rules. Every single D&D campaign, unless they specify to you, will run with those identical rules, and we're going to keep them effectively. Okay. And the other thing we're going to keep is that the Dungeon Master's Guide gives a good list of what they call the Dawn War deities. And in our campaign, we're not going to try and make our own gods. We're just going to use the default Dawn War deities. So everyone from Asmodeus, who rules the Hells, all the way through to Lolth, who is the evil spider, drow lady person, Vecna, who you will have heard of, some sort of evil undead lich, Cord, Pelor, the goddess of the sun, effectively. So all the standard ones you've heard of, we're just going to copy those. Okay. So those are the ground rules we're using.
Okay.
So we are going to build a little settlement. So what I want you to think of is, what is the purpose of this settlement in your game? Why are we building the settlement? We're going to run a game of Dungeons and Dragons. We've got the assumption that we're going to have 4 level 1 characters in our campaign. Let's say maybe 2 of them have played D&D before, but the other 2 are totally new to it. So they don't have any idea about anything that's happened in D&D before, or D&D lore, or the monsters are all new and scary. Maybe they've watched Stranger Things and Lord of the Rings, and so they have an idea about things like orcs and undead and zombies and stuff, but they've never played D&D before. Maybe the other 2 have got, there's always one player who's got a little bit of background, so you're always a little bit scared of DMing for them because they think, you think they've done it before, and the 4th is sort of somewhere in between. So what's the purpose of this settlement in your game? What are you trying to do? And I think for us, it's going to be because we want a first session. So that's going to keep in mind. We need somewhere to set session 1, because that's the scariest thing, is trying to build the first session where you go, right, this is my world. Right. So what do you think is the most overused, stereotypical start to any campaign in D&D?
Oh God, overused typical starter. Oh man, I think literally the only thing that's just come to mind is when you play Pokemon, it's literally that starting town which is of 4 houses and you get your Pokemon. I feel like that anything which is like a new beginning, it's something like that essentially.
Yeah, that sort of thing, exactly. That for me, it's always been that everybody meets in a tavern. Everyone starts in a tavern. The tavern starts.
That makes more sense.
Exactly. So that's what we're going to do. So we've got a settlement, and the whole purpose we're creating it is to have a tavern in it. And that's going to be the starting session place that all the characters will combine, and all of this 100 session adventure that we make from this point is all going to start from this one little place. Okay. Yep. So the first decision we've got to make is, how big do we want this settlement to be? Do you want it to be a village? So a village is somewhere up to about 1,000 people. It's very small. It may be presided over by a lord or a noble of some kind, or some sort of clerk who may not even live in the place. It's not quite backwater. It's civilized, but there's not much going on. Advantages for us is that there's not much to flesh out, but then the disadvantage is that the characters may not want to stay here for very long. Right. Or we can have a town being a little bit bigger. It's a little bit more for us to think about in terms of filling in the blanks, because there's up to about 6,000 people here. And there may be more commerce. There may be more of a purpose for this town, but the advantage is it gives us a bit more flexibility. So we can do either. Would you like to make a village or a town?
Let's make a town. Let's make it a little bit bigger. A challenge. Yeah.
Wonderful. So we've got a town. Okay. Yep. So we're going to say that about 5,000 people live in this town, which is a pretty decent sized town, but we're not talking about a city. The next thing you've got to think about is, what sort of race do you want to be the predominant faction, or the sort of the ownership of this town? Would you like it to be a town full of dwarves, elves, halflings, anything that tickles your fancy? I mean, what I would normally say to people is, if you're unsure or you don't know, humans are a good way to start in the middle, because it's quite easy to go for, but we can do anything you want.
Oh, okay. Let's go for dwarves. Dwarves don't get enough. They don't get enough spotlight, I think. So
perfect.
Dwarves.
Okay, so we've got a dwarven town. It's going to be the starting settlement, and we know that it's got at least one tavern in it. Okay, those are the things that we've settled in so far. We now need to give it a name for the place. Now, we don't have to do that now. If you've got a good idea for a name, then you can throw one down. The name can change as well. You don't need to necessarily keep the name. You don't also need to come up with something that sounds dwarven. This is a big trope of people sort of getting a bit worked up by the idea that this place has got to be dwarven sounding. It can have a perfectly common human name. If you've got any good names, we can go for one now, or we can put this to the side for now and come back to it once we've fleshed it out a little bit.
Let's flesh it out a little bit. I'm always bad at coming up with good names on the spot, so yeah.
No, that's absolutely fine. So let's have a think about the first impressions. What if you were walking into this settlement? what would be the first thing you notice about it? Because this is a really good way to get in the minds of the players a whole host of details that you haven't even got to bother making. This is what we call sort of flavor sensory overload, where you basically can just put one or two first impressions down and people make it up. So if you think about towns that we've encountered in campaigns like Ybrit, for instance, the way I described it to start with was that it was a very small rock with a huge amount of people on it. And everywhere you looked, it looked like people were about to fall off it. It was heaving, it was overcrowded and sort of pushed in. And everything we did from that point sort of gave that image of Ybrit being totally packed in. So have a think about that first impression. Is it a smell? Is it a sight? Is it a sound? Is it the fact that the place is falling down, or it's totally new, or there's a weird color to it? Give me something random that you like about this town.
Okay.
And don't forget that the big caveat with all of this is that it doesn't need to stay the same, and you can change your mind later. This is throwing things onto a piece of paper so that you can work with it later.
Again, the only thing that sort of comes to my mind, that sort of when you go into a town, that sort of opening scene is like that bit from Beauty and the Beast where they're all sort of opening as like bonjour. So I like the idea that it's maybe a market town or a trading town, but it is from sort of early morning to not even late evening, but there's just noise of people talking and bartering and stuff like that, and saying hello to each other. Yeah.
So it's quite an outdoorsy town. Yeah. Lots of people throwing doors open. The sound of markets, the sound of people bustling. Would you say that it's that sort of bustle that comes from people being way too busy, or are people genuinely like small town talking to each other? Everybody says hello. I'm thinking in the UK, there's this sort of stereotypical difference between people who exist in London, where people don't talk to each other and push past each other all the time, sort of bustle, or up in the north where people say hello to each other rather than sort of ignoring each other. What sort of bustle do you think?
Yeah, I think the ideal version of the north where everyone says hello to each other, for sure.
Perfect. So there we go. We've got an immediate flavor you can describe to people. So in this town, everybody says hello to each other. There's a constant bustle. It's a market town, and with that sort of generic throwing the doors open, everything here is designed for the doors to be open, the windows to be open. It's inviting. That's the atmosphere you've created. Okay. So let's have a think about the weather and the geography of the place. What sort of weather does this place have? Is it a tundra cold city where people are wrapped up in furs all the time? Is it a really warm desert city? Tropical storms hit the area a lot, so there's lots of rain. Is it totally parched, or is it very European in style? So nice warm summers, very cold winters, quite temperate. What sort of weather do you want?
Now that you mention it, I'd love the idea of like an icy sort of like almost like a Christmas card. That sort of like the view of it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like a sort of Santa's village sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, great. So we're going to go for the sort of stereotypical. Do you want it to be flat, cold? So we're thinking lots of huge open forests and fields covered in packed snow, or do you want it to be hilly or mountainous? So thinking more Scandinavian, or lots of forest in the way that's sort of like the Bavarian sort of German Christmas town. What sort of thing do you want?
Hell yeah, I want Bavarian. Yeah.
Bavarian. Okay, so we've got maybe some rivers and we've got some hills, but nothing too extreme. Do you want mountains in the local area, maybe on the horizon, or no mountains at all, nice and flat for people to be able to travel around? What sort of thing do you want?
Oh yeah, I to be honest, I just realized it does feel a bit like Frozen and Arendelle a little bit, but yeah, I like the idea of having like a mountain or two. Yeah, for sure.
Christ, D&D put out a module about Arendelle and being able to go around there. I would play it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. Absolutely. Right. As I say, there's no harm in taking a little bit of inspiration from anything you want. Okay, so we're going for sort of like a German Bavarian themed Christmas card town. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Wonderful. Let's have a think about the style of settlement. So if you think about the houses, is this a very new place, a very old place, or a bit of a mix? Would you say that it's very wealthy, or a bit hand-to-mouth functional, or do you think there's a bit of everything here?
I would say that the buildings are old for sure. Like that sort of, again, from the Christmas card, it's very sort of, from what I remember, sort of, I'm thinking like Nutcracker-esque, so it's all very sort of prim and proper, I guess.
Okay, yeah.
I think there would be a little bit of wealth in there, to be honest with you.
Perfect. Yeah, okay, a bit of wealth. So this is maybe a prosperous town, or do you think that maybe some people do really well and some people don't do as well?
Let's go for prosperous. I think
prosperous.
Yeah,
okay, we've got a nice prosperous town. Wonderful. We've got lots of old buildings. Now, what sort of style of building do you want? Do you want, I'm thinking with the Bavarian idea, lots of sort of log cabin, wooden constructions, or would you prefer there to be a bit of stone, so everything's like sort of old-fashioned castles and bricks and mortar, maybe like a northern England sort of flint and dry stone wall sort of effect to it? What sort of feeling do you want?
Yeah, I think stone over log cabin. There'll probably be like some log cabins further out, perhaps. But I think this is the main town area. All of it is stone, and it looks very like that sort of Bavarian castle style.
Okay, right, write it all down. So you've got stone in the center, and as it gets further out, they become more Bavarian wood. That again, that's something you can describe on the way in. As the characters come into the town, you've got a thing where there's some beautiful wooden, snowy, like log cabins on the edges, and as they come into the town, the buildings become much more, stone and old, and that's perfect. Finally, what sort of government style have we got here? We can think of, is this place governed by the locals or by an outside influence? So maybe there is a mayor here that lives in the town, or maybe they're in a city further away and there's no direct governance in this town. Do you think one person has got the keys to it, or do you think there's a council, or maybe some mages rule over it, or merchants rule over it, or there's a system where literally the strongest are the ones that take charge? What sort of politics do you think? I mean, I'm thinking of stereotypical things. You could go from everywhere here, so like an outlaw cowboy style town to a very well regulated frontier kingdom Roman Empire sort of town. What sort of government style do you think might work here?
Maybe for more of the sort of role play aspect, there would be like a council of dwarves, but it wouldn't be that many. Like it would be like, I don't know, 3.
A small council. Yes, no, exactly. So that it's like there is a vote, but very few people get to vote. So it's very incestuous.
And there's,
in that sort of way.
And there's always going to, if there's a tie, then there's always going to be a deciding vote because there's only an odd number of them, I guess. So.
Perfect. No, that's really important. There you go. Write it down. There's always an odd number, so there's always a deciding vote, and there's 3 of them. So we've already started to really flesh this town out. We've got I don't know about you, but I can kind of see roughly what this sort of place looks and feels like. And, you can see the snow, you can see the wood and the stone. Do you want there to be a river flowing through it? Or maybe there's a river a little walk away?
I think a little walk away. Maybe there's like a bridge over into the town itself, and that's maybe not necessarily the main way in, but like it's very picturesque. I'm guessing like because it might phase over and they can go ice skating. Again, thinking of that Christmas card.
Well, there you go. So normally a town would be on a river in order for boats to come up and down, but in this case, there's no need to be on the river because the river freezes over. So there's maybe a track down to the river that they can use in the warmer months, but otherwise all traffic to this town comes in via cart and horses and that sort of thing. So I imagine it probably has to have a stable of some kind. So we can write down that there's at least one sort of stables in this town, and you could argue as well that there's got to be some sort of government building. Some sort of, do you want there to be a town hall, or maybe a castle or a keep, or maybe an old-fashioned manor house that's been repurposed? What sort of center thing?
I think a manor house of some sort. There's no point in going for a mini castle with turrets because I think that's going to be way too thin. But I think a manor house would be quite nice for sure.
Exactly. Never worry about making things make sense, because this is the thing. Like if it did have a huge castle but it was only a small town, you'd have to think, well, why? And you put a big question mark by it, and you don't think about it for a while, and then maybe 5 sessions in you realize, oh well, maybe something happened. It was a much bigger place. There was a need for a castle. Maybe there's some sort of war here previously, and there's now no need for it, so the castle's a bit run down, or maybe it's some rich person's folly. But so we've got a nice manor house. It's going to be the center point of the town. So what sort of commerce is the main thing in this town? So we've described it as a market town. Are we thinking that you've got sort of big open air food markets, like a sort of farmer's market style feel with people with food and vegetables and trade goods that they display openly? Or can you see there being a main high street, like a proper old-fashioned shopping street that established merchants have set up shop on? Do you think that there is a reason for this town being here? Like maybe there's a big local mine and lots of the stuff that comes through here is metal based, or maybe some logging? Or do you think that maybe it's just on a crossroads and there's no real industry in this town, but they just trade whatever comes through? So like a sort of like a thoroughfare town.
Okay. Again, just going back to Christmas card stuff is so stupid, but like a German market essentially. So it's mostly food based. So you got your beer, you got your sausages, and then maybe some random crafts that someone puts in at the end to fill it
Perfect. Okay, great. So we've got the two things here. So we've got a town that trades mostly in farmers market goods, so food and sort of animal based products, I would guess. So maybe there's lots of arable land around here, or maybe people keep a lot of animals. That could be a primary thing, but also Christmas knickknacks. So maybe we think, I mean, honestly, that's not a bad idea. So do you think maybe there's as much as toys and pointless stuff? So lots of like artifact sort of stuff. I'm thinking artificer, sort of toy maker style stuff.
Oh my God, yes, definitely. Yeah.
Wonderful. There we go. We're building a sense of it now. And do you think people come to this town because the town has got something that people travel to it? Or do you think it's more of a thoroughfare town that's picked up a little bit of a name for itself, but is kind of on the way to somewhere else? How much importance do you want to give this town?
I think it's going to be one of those ones where I think it's on the way to other places, like it's on the way, but I kind of realized it's just going to be the Christmas shop version of a town. So, where there's always that one shop that has all the Christmas stuff all year round. It's that, essentially.
Perfect. So people come to this town because it's a bit eccentric and it's got all of the festive stuff in it all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. That is really, really cool. So what we're going to do now is we're going to help ourselves by making some little random lists that we can use to help flesh the town out if the characters do what I call going off on a tangent. And it doesn't matter how much we plan this town, people will always do stuff that will mean that we will just... we'll look at it and go, hang on, I haven't prepared this. What do I do? And so we're going to make ourselves some lists to sort of help get through that, right? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to have some names. And this is where books like Xanathar's Guide come in really handy, because there's an Appendix B at the back of it, I think from page 175 onwards. It's just got a huge list of names, which is really useful. But this is also where Google or another search site would work really well, because if you just type in random names or name generator, there's hundreds of websites that can do exactly the same thing for you. But what we're going to do is we are going to have a look through and we're going to make a little list of some names here that we can rely on if people throw things at us and we need to flesh things out at a pace. Okay.
All right.
So we decided that dwarves are pretty much the main sort of race here. Are we going to say that it is only dwarves that live here, or mostly dwarves, or maybe about half dwarves? What do you fancy?
I think definitely mostly dwarves. I feel like with the artificers and stuff, there'll be maybe a couple of gnomes as well, but I think mostly dwarves would be... So
they stand out pretty much. Okay. So first thing to go for is we're going to have a look at the clan list. So there's a dwarf clan list, which is sort of a surname list that we can use. And we can have a look down here and basically steal 5 of these that we're going to make a little list for. So either you can have a look down and have a look at some of the ones you like the sound of, or we can roll for them randomly. Is there any preference here as to what you want to do, or...
Let's roll for them randomly. Okay. Go on, let's make it all random.
So if you need a D100 for these ones, you have to pick which special dice. Maybe you've got... So if you're sad like me, you've got D&D, I play the game dice, but I actually have special world-building dice that I only ever use for like DM stuff.
That's super cute.
Metal, and I need to be careful where I roll them. But so we'll get a D100 out, and let's roll it 5 times on this list, and we can come up with some names.
Okay. All right. 18 is the first
18,
one.
So that's Broodfest.
Oh.
Broodfest. Oh, that's a good sounding one, isn't it?
That is a good sounding one. I love it. Already into it.
All right.
Okay.
And what's up next?
79.
79 is Steelfest. There we go.
Oh.
So the second fist, that's okay. Even if things you're looking at it thinking, oh, I wish I had something a bit different, keep on it. Just roll with it, because you may be able to do something with that later. So let's have a look at the third one.
That's a 7. Yes, 7.
7. Big toe.
Yes, I saw that and I was like, that would be awesome to have.
Big toe. That's pretty good. It doesn't sound very dwarven, actually.
No.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, let's go for number 4.
Number 4. Okay. That is a 68.
68. So 68 is Orctho.
Orctho.
Oh. Again, some ideas here. This could throw things into the sort of local area. Why are they called Orctho? Maybe there are orcs in the surrounding area. Who knows? And go for the 5th one.
Okay, final one. That is a 52.
A 52. That is going to be Greybeard.
Oh yeah. Oh, nice.
Greybeard. Okay, wonderful. And you've also can see on that list there are some male names and some female names that you can throw. It's up to you whether people you randomly meet are male or female. There really doesn't matter. You can build the world as you want, and we won't bother rolling for those names at the moment, but you can use those as you get up. Remember that if people meet people and they're part of the same shop or part of the same family, you can use the same clan name over and over. Don't forget, when you're making these things up randomly, you don't need to think about the family tree for each family as it's happening effectively. You can always make things up on the spot as you go along. If a player comes along and meets Big Toe and you've already decided that actually Adric is the name of this dwarf, and the players go, oh, have you got any siblings? And you go, you can just say, yes, 2, and then roll on the thing and come up with some more names. So you can flesh that out as you get on.
Nice.
Okay. So now what we need to think of some generic building names, because this is a really good way of getting us out of a spot of bother if people start asking us things about the town and we haven't necessarily prepared them. So again, there are some fantastic lists online here for random. The ones I'd have a look at is pub names, random pub names, but also random ship names can also come up with some really good stuff. But you could also, not everything has to be named. There's nothing wrong with saying, if someone says, is there a forge? And you go, yes, there is the forge, and just call it the forge. Not everything needs a name, but we're going to come up with a few pub names at the moment, 3 of them. Okay. Because these things are quite handy to have. So if you think of pubs that you know of, and in real life, they're all about kings and queens and animals and sometimes little jokes. Anything that you want to throw in as a pub name, or do you want to do this a bit randomly?
Oh, let's do it random. Let's do it all random.
Okay. Wonderful. So I've got a list here that's got 118 pub names on it, and I took this from a random website called dungeonmaster.com. 118 tavern names, pretty good one. Give me a number between 1 and 118.
89.
89. Okay, that's going to be the Angelic Imp.
Ooh.
So there we go. That is a name for one tavern, the Angelic Imp.
Nice. Let's go for 42. Might as well.
42. The Fountain. Yeah, that sounds quite. It's very generic. Again, maybe we can throw this into building the town. Maybe there is a fountain in the middle, and the fountain is by it. Who knows? And one more.
Numbers. Let's go for 31.
31. That is going to be the Drovers.
Ooh.
Is that another name of a family or a clan, and that's sort of adopted? Are they people that once left? Is drovers a profession? Who knows?
Okay.
We've got options here. We can do whatever we want. So, okay, we're starting to flesh out the place a little bit now. So we know that there's at least one tavern, because that's where the players are going to meet. Do you want that tavern to be any of the taverns we've made, or do you want to make a 4th one?
Let's make a 4th one. Why not?
A 4th one. Okay. Yeah. Now, do you want to name it yourself, or do you want to do it randomly?
Oh, we'll do it randomly. Yeah, I've not thought that far ahead.
No, that's fine. Again, give me a number then.
Let's go for lucky number 7.
Lucky number 7. The 3 Cups.
Oh, nice. I like that.
The 3 Cups. There we go. So our adventure is going to start in the 3 Cups, in this dwarven town that's snow-filled, that there's lots of food, there's lots of Christmas knickknacks.
Yeah.
You've got that sense of sort of a very sort of cold atmosphere. Is it pretty cold when the campaign starts, middle of winter, or is it quite temperate at the moment?
Temperate at the moment, I think.
Okay. Summer, spring, autumn?
Autumn.
Okay. So it's going to get cold at some point, but at the moment, the players have got a little bit of time. Okay. That's good. Right. So let's have a think about just fleshing it out a little bit more. So what I want you to do is come up with one organization in this settlement and some sort of purpose that they've got. Now, this organization could be anything from an adventuring guild to a religious order, or maybe a company that has a lot of prevalence in the area, or maybe it's just got something to do with the local militia. Have you got any ideas about some sort of organization? I mean, if you think about ideas, this could be something that's only in this local area, or maybe they are threaded throughout the world and we can flesh that out at some later session point. But maybe it's some sort of guild, maybe it's some sort of company.
Yeah. Let's go for, I guess, the easiest option. Just trying to think of something like that. I think just like an adventurers guild of some sort. An
adventurers guild. Okay, so these guys are famous for exploring and uncovering things that have been lost, maybe?
Yeah.
Shall we say that this is a friendly order to fit into the town, or maybe it's quite a corporate, cold affair, or maybe it's quite aggressive and cutthroat? What sort of theme do you want?
I'd love the idea that it's corporate. Everything else is really nice with the market and stuff, and then you have them as like business.
Perfect. A really corporate adventurers guild. Okay, great, wonderful. And should we say that this is the headquarters of it, or maybe just a branch of it, and the headquarters is somewhere else?
I think like an outpost or something like that, because it makes, why would they be on the town on the way there? They probably have another town that has it in there. So I think like an outpost or a branch of it for sure. Okay,
so there's an outpost for an adventurers guild. Now, do we want the adventurers guild for now to be called the adventurers guild, or do you want to have a go at naming something?
Let's have a go at naming it, but
okay. Yeah. So if this is an adventurers guild, it's all got to be about exploring and or being brave. So we think about random sort of names. A good way that you can always think about it is to get an element type, so like a sort of lightning or fire or cold. So what's your favorite sort of like magical element?
Let's go for lightning.
Lightning? Okay. And what's your favorite weapon in D&D?
It's a great axe, yeah.
The great axe, okay. So we've got lightning and we've got a great axe. So maybe it's like the thunder axes or axe of the storm. Can you think of something that sort of throws those two together? Don't forget, you can always change this later. It doesn't need to be fixed for now.
Let's go for Axes of the Storm. I think that was quite a good one. Yeah,
Axes of the Storm, brilliant. Okay, so there we go. We have our first organization. There's a branch of the Axes of the Storm in this town. So if we think about the town itself, should we have a go at the name now? Because we've really fleshed out the sort of style of that. So what's this town most famous for? I think there's trades, but there's always markets and places. So it could have market in the name. It could be cold market. It could be snow market. Maybe the knickknackery, the Christmassy knickknacks are what give it its flavor. I mean, do you want it to be named for what it does, or do you want it to be named totally randomly?
Let's try randomly again. Let's try that. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So, I mean, one of the ways you could do this is to pick a dwarven clan name and sort of try and sort of bounce off that. That's always a good one if you want to sort of do that.
Yeah.
You could do it based on the environment and the area. So if you want to rough off the sort of the snow or the cold or the sort of forested areas, then you can do that as well. But if you roll a D100 for us, let's see if we can come up with something based on a dwarven clan name.
Okay. That's 57.
57 is Holderheck.
Oh, nice.
Holderheck. So Holderheck is a brilliant name for a town anyway, but what part of that do you prefer? Holder or Heck or both of it?
Holderheck. The first part, Holder, I think that'd be quite good. Holder, yeah.
So you could say Holder Town, Holderville, Holderton, Holder Market, or the sort of Holder on Hill. It could be anything you want.
Yeah, Holder on Hill. That's because it's quite hilly and it's quite I quite like that.
Yeah, it is. Okay, we've got quite a nice hilly forest. Okay, wonderful. So Holder on Hill. You've named your town.
Whoa.
So already we've got a nice sort of first session. We've only been at this for sort of like half an hour. So let's start to think about what the characters are going to do. So we need a local area of which we can sort of have them throwing themselves around in. So what I want to do is to make 3 other towns that are in the perimeter or some sort of easy travel from this place.
Okay.
So we're going to have 1 big and we're going to have 2 small.
Okay.
So the other 2 small towns, again, we don't need to do much. We're going to basically make a town and we're going to put a sentence on each one that you can use to describe that helps us to sort of randomly describe it if people ask us about it, and we can flesh it out at a later point. So the 2 small towns, if we have a think about the names again, should we use some random dwarven names, or do you want them to be not dwarven places or human places? Or
let's do more dwarven places, I think.
Dwarven places. Yeah. Okay, roll a d100 for me. Let's see what we can do.
That's 82.
82. That is stout ale.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Stout ale. So what sort of place do you think stout ale would be? If we have a think, when we started on our town, we did first impressions. We had basically we decided what's the first thing people would notice about going into this place.
I think for this, again, instantly I get sort of visions of like Oktoberfest. So I think it's a pure brewery town. Like it does the alcohol and Trappist beer.
Perfect. Okay, so that we've got a town famous for its beer and breweries, and maybe it's taverns. Maybe there's loads and loads of pubs. But all you can say is that is the general theme of it. We don't need to do anything more.
Okay.
For that. Okay. The second small town, you're going to have a go at making the name yourself, because you just jump into these things and it's amazing what you can do. So if you think of a feature, maybe some piece of terrain you really like, if you were going to go on holiday, what sort of environment would you want to go to?
Oh, God. It's been so long since I've actually been on holiday, Ryan. So.
I know. Use your imagination.
What do I really like? I really like, actually one of the pictures on my background just now is like the fall, like a forest full of like autumn leaves and stuff like that. So something like the color of orange, that sort of browny orange as the leaves start to fall down and cover sort of the forest floor. So something like that, I think, would be the feature. Okay. Like it's known for its like trees, like the fall trees, I guess. Yeah.
So autumn orange forest. Okay. So do you want to call it autumn forest, orange forest as a base, and maybe play off that?
Autumn forest, I think, or autumn's forest, perhaps.
Autumn's forest. There you go. That's the second place. And what do people notice when they go to autumn's forest? Is it the local terrain? Is the major part of this town?
I guess compared to these other 2 places, it is definitely more wood cabin there. So it would probably be their Airbnb. People go and stay there. Yeah, it's like a very picturesque place.
Oh, so this is a holiday town.
Yeah,
where the town is within the trees. Yeah, it's wooden and it's stunning.
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. There you go. Okay, so already we're building a little world. We've got the Christmas town, we've got the brewery town, and we've got the holiday beautiful town. Okay, this is good. This is how you build a world.
Yeah.
Literally, you've got like 10 sessions worth of places you could go to already. People get stuck on not wanting to flesh stuff out, but sometimes if you just throw things onto a piece of paper, you don't need to use everything. Some bits you'll like and some bits you won't. But until you just have a go, you just don't know what will appear. Okay, so now we need a city. So this city is going to be, in every sort of starting campaign, the town will always say, "Oh, no, we don't have that here." If it's not here, it will probably be in the bigger city. So, a lot of the problems we're going to have is like maybe people are after a magic item or a potion that doesn't exist. It's going to be in the city. Okay. So what is the city going to be called? Well, to start with, is it going to be a capital city, or is it just going to be a city of the local region? So just a big city, but not the biggest city.
Like a hub, essentially. Yeah, like the latter. So not the capital, but I sort of the biggest place around in this region for sure.
Okay, the regional capital.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. It's going to be big. What is the first thing that people notice about this city as they're coming in? Maybe is it the wealth of it? Is it much more poor or rich? Does it smell? Is it built up? Is it really visible on the horizon, distinctive looking? Is it really innocuous and boring looking? What sort of place?
Oh God, yeah, it's definitely boring. Definitely boring. Sort of, boring, grey, monotone.
Okay, so unlike all of these other lovely little towns, this is not a nice place to be.
Yeah. definitely.
Okay, this is much more urban, much more grotty. So, okay, so we've got a general feel. It's for regional capital. It's much more dour and grey. And then in terms of names, so the other strategy you can use is we are going to be plagiaristic. Think of, give me a movie, a book, or a D&D podcast you really, really like.
Oh, God. God, it's been it's like all these questions. I've got the answer to them. Okay, a podcast that I really like. Go for High Rollers. We'll go for
High Rollers.
Yeah.
All right, High Rollers. So in High Rollers, which is what is his name? Mark Hulmes and his world. It's all about sky cities and floating islands and a broken world. It's a really cool campaign setting. Okay. Give me some of the cities in his empire. I think there's Gold Throne. There's some of the floating cities, aren't there? I'm just trying to think of
God, yeah. Now you push me because it's been a little while since I've listened to it.
It is, yeah. Gold Throne is one I can think of. So
let's look at that one.
We're going to steal it.
Yeah.
We're just going to say Gold Throne is now in your campaign. You could also do it with, say, Critical Role. The cities I can think of like Wrexham or Hoppaduke, or other places like Taldor, I think is the world, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the world,
again, there's nothing stopping you stealing the name. You could go Lord of the Rings and say, oh, Rivendell is over there, or Helm's Keep. Just use it, just riff off it. Okay, but we've now got Gold Throne.
Okay,
which is the local regional capital. Okay, wonderful. So on a map, you could start drawing that. And if you're unsure, if people ask you, oh, which direction are things in, and you're not sure, then take a D8. So if you take a D8 from your dice tray, which I'm sure you'll have sort of near you.
I had it to hand, but
exactly. We're going to say 1 is north, and then going round in a figure of 8, it goes sort of north, northeast, east, southeast, south in that direction. So roll it. So we're going to say, I'm a player 1 character, and I go, oh, well, I'm just going to ride to Gold Throne. Which direction is it? I ask the local towns guard, and they say, roll the D8.
6.
6. It's west.
West. Okay. Okay. I like that. That's really cool.
Easy.
Yeah.
Perfect. You don't need to know where on the map it is. Oh, actually, no, I'm being awkward as a player. I'm saying, actually, but how far is it? How long is it going to take me?
Oh, God.
Roll a D10.
Oh, man. I should have got all the dice. Oh, I've got a 10 there.
Well, do D8 or whatever you want.
5.
5? It's 50 miles away.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I thought it'd be more complicated like mathematics, but no, 50 miles away.
Nope. I mean, you can think about these things if you want, but we're just building a world off the cuff here. Okay, now we need 3 dungeons/locations, points of interest on the local map near our town that we can sort of flesh out and little points of interest. Okay. So we're going to have 3 dungeons or locations. Think about some really stereotypical D&D things that you would want to set a campaign. And if you think of the one-shots you've run, what sort of places do people go?
Where they go or where I force them to go?
Both.
Okay. I always quite like setting things in like, is it like another dimension, but not so, but it's like a house essentially, like rooms upon rooms that change, like a labyrinth of some sort.
Oh, some
sort of labyrinth of some sort. I guess because when they're mountains, something within the mountain itself.
Oh, okay. So some sort of mountain dungeon, some sort of labyrinth. Okay, so write that down. So one of the places is going to be some sort of mountain dungeon or labyrinth. We are assuming that is this place occupied, or is it forgotten? Is it long lost? Is it dangerous?
Let's change the trope slightly. So yeah, like it's well known, I guess.
Well known.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So everyone knows about it. Okay. Do people go there, or do people avoid it?
I think people try and go there. Like it's like I don't want to say this all feels very touristy, so I feel like it's like a tourist trap in a way.
Okay. No, this is good. So there is a sort of mountain settlement labyrinth that is a tourist trap.
Yeah.
Okay, great. That's the first dungeon/location that we've got in the area. Okay.
Yep.
Wonderful. We need a second one. So give me something more dangerous. It's an area that people avoid. Why do people avoid it? Are there monsters there? Is there undead there? Are there bandits there? Or is there something even randomer you can think of?
Oh, I tell you what, somewhere up in the mountains where the different sort of, maybe where the two mountains or wherever sort of come in, there is those packs of frostbiters which we made in the monster thing, and they
okay.
Yeah. And so it's more dangerous there to go out in the middle of the night around there.
Wonderful. So there is a mountain pass that people can go to that people don't travel to in the night because of the frostbiters.
Yeah.
Perfect. Right. That's the second location. That is a quest, hook in itself. You could have a traveling merchant needs to get from A to B, but it takes you through the pass, and you need to be accompanied effectively.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Right. We need a third location now. So what is the most naturally interesting point in the local geography? So we've got, as I say, you don't need to have a continent that particularly makes sense in terms of all of the features need to make perfect world sense, because I can guarantee you on Earth, there is like a 10 square mile area that has such different random features that it's going to make this seem normal, because people just don't realize how random the Earth is. So give me something that's incredibly beautiful on a natural level, what people want to go and see.
Okay. One thing I've always wanted to go see is the Giant's Causeway in Ireland, like the way.
Okay.
Yeah, but not in the sea. I guess maybe just somewhere like just randomly that there's all these rocks that are piled up, and no one knows how it's been piled up. Yeah.
Right. So a huge rock pile. Maybe the rocks are they got that sort of hexagonal Giant's Causeway sort of look to them.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Wonderful. So there's a natural wonder, a natural feature with rock in beautiful formations. And people want to go there. It is a place. Is it religious, or is it touristy, or is it magical? What do you think?
Ooh, okay. I think it's magical. Let's go for magical. Yeah.
Okay. So there's magical sort of reason that people might want to go there. If you now have a look at your piece of paper, we've built quite a complicated world from scratch. If people sort of went about, you sort of looking at it and thinking, okay, we've got some stuff in the town. We have a tavern, we've got stables, we've got a point of government. We know what sort of shops are here. It's a market, it's an open air market, so maybe it's only open in the day. If people want quests, they've got a government they can go to, they've got taverns they can go to, they've got places of interest. We now have 3 other places they can travel to, including 3 more locations. So the last thing we need to do is think about, how do we put the characters in this world? How are we going to make the first session? So we've already said to start with that they're going to meet in a tavern.
Okay.
But why? What are they doing there, and how is the campaign starting? So we're assuming now that you're building something that maybe it's open-ended as to how long this is going to go down. You know that in most level 1 adventures, let's keep it to 1 session, because you don't know if people are going to like it. You hope you're going to enjoy DMing, but you never know. You may not enjoy it. So about 3-4 hours, they're going to be level 2 by the end of this. So something for level 1s. Why would 4 motley adventurers be summoned to a tavern? Do they know each other, or do they not know each other? That's the first
thing, isn't it?
Thing to decide. If they know each other, then the players have more of an opportunity to build like a little gang or a story between them, but they may need to do a little bit more talking with each other beforehand, or they may need to sort of get involved in the world a little bit more. So the advantages of that is it gets people involved with each other's characters. The alternative is that if they don't know each other, it gives people a lot more freedom to make whatever characters they want. The only problem is sometimes people come up with incredibly random ideas that you may find difficult to fit in. But again, that's no bad thing. It just means you've got to think about changing your world a little bit.
Okay.
So what would you prefer?
I think it's always better to know people when they start off. So I think, they know each other from something. Yeah. Okay, the characters know each other then. Okay, are they from this area, or have they traveled to this area? Are they from random places, or are they from this area? I'd say they're from different places.
Different places. Okay, so they're from out of town. But that's okay, because we know our town is really inviting and friendly, so that's not a problem necessarily. But they don't know the local area. Yeah. Advantages to that is that there's a lot of exploration, and there's not you having to say, oh, well, you would know this and you would know that. But the bad things of it is that obviously people have got to get invested and try and work out what's going on. Yeah. Okay. And we need a quest. Why are they here? Were they summoned because they were looking for work, or did they actually have work? Have they actually been hired to do something? So is this open-ended, or is there a specific first session?
Let's go for they were hired. for work. They have a quest to go on, so they just have to meet at the meeting point with the contractor or whoever.
Okay, so let's have a think about the contractor. So we don't have to make anything up because you've already fleshed out this place enough. Is it a merchant, as in a farmer or some sort of farmer's market person, or is it a Christmas creator? Is it part of the local government, or is it a tavern owner has summoned somebody?
Let's go for the Christmas creator for sure.
Christmas creator. So the first quest is that one of the merchants who has a quest for the party. What's the merchant called? That's one of the names we all need to flesh out. Right. We've got our list, so we can make a name up, or we can use the random list that you've got.
Well, definitely Greybeard for sure. We're having
Greybeard.
Yeah.
Okay, male or female?
We'll go female.
Female? Do you want to roll a D100?
Yeah, always.
This is how easy it is. You can just make things up on the fly.
66.
66. So Nora, Nora.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Nora Greybeard is the first quest giver. She is a Christmas creator of some kind. And why would she summon the level 1 characters? It's got to be a little local problem that she's got. Has she run out of materials? Is she in danger? Does she want to travel somewhere? Is she struggling to sell something? What do you think she might need an issue with?
Ooh, I like that what you just said, the last thing, that she's struggling to sell something. Like maybe whatever it is so out there as like the Christmas gift or the wintertide gift of the year that she's struggling to sell it.
Wonderful. And why is she struggling to sell it? Is it because it's a very bad taste, or is it because it's incredibly expensive and nobody is wealthy enough to buy it? Or do you think she has some sort of popularity issue? Maybe people are embargoing her business.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I'd say the latter. Like she's got rivals, or it's a popularity contest in this market. Yeah.
So maybe the other merchants have got together and they are stopping her from selling this thing.
Oh no. So sad.
But there you go. This is a world you've created now, because you're like, well, why have the merchants done that? What did she do? Is it that the merchants are evil and they're trying to form a monopoly? Or is the quest giver a really nasty person? These are all things that you can think about and play, with.
Yeah.
But there you go. You've created a world. So, I mean, why don't you give us just a quick, brief rundown of the little world you've created, and we can just bask in our own glory.
So is it Hold It on the Hill is like a Christmas sort of card town. Everything is sort of old-fashioned stone. You've got snow sort of coming off all these sort of different roofs. The local river to it, it's always freezing over, and you see like young dwarves ice skating across it time to time. It's well known for its Christmas themed or wintertide themed markets, lots of good food and lots of good drink and stuff like that. The characters are here knowing each other, but they're here because they've been asked to come here by one Nora Greybeard to assist in her selling some new item or some new toy, but she's struggling because the other market owners don't think too highly of her. Yeah.
We've got places as well. You've got some other towns and cities you can describe. As I say, so if I were a character and I was running around, and in my first session, I'm just going to throw a couple of random things at you.
Okay.
And just have a think. How would you go about sort of fixing it? Okay. So my character says, I started with 25 gold. I want to buy a couple of daggers and some torches. Where do I go?
The Drovers, that's a sort of local family that sort of run the forge, and they'll have a few items here and there for daggers and small items.
Brilliant. Very good. Very, very good. If you're ever in doubt and you want to know what a town will offer you, draw a little gold threshold in your head, which is normally about 1/10 of the population of the city or the town that you're in. So we said there was about 5,000 people here. Yeah. So there's a 500 gold limit. Anything that's more than 500 gold is unlikely to be available here.
Oh, okay.
But we're also going to say that because it's a town, pretty much anything in the player's handbook is available. So weapons and armor, not plate armor though. That's more than that. So that's kind of where the limit is.
Okay.
And we're going to say that magic items, do you want them to be sort of available here, or maybe common magic items, or nothing at all?
Let's go for nothing at all. Like, I feel like, Yeah, definitely.
This is not a magical place in that sense. So maybe that's a quest hook. If people want to get that potion, they've got to travel. Perfect. And let's say my level 1 cleric goes, well, actually, the book said that I follow Pelor, the god of the sun, and I really need to go and say my prayers there in the morning. Where do I go to pray?
Well, just a little way off into the distance, there is I'm sure we'll come up with a better name for it, but the Giant's Causeway, essentially, that's where the most magic in this little region is, and that's where you're most likely to get connected to God. I don't know.
Perfect. No, brilliant. And the religious hub's not in the town, it's up the road. That's a quest hook that involves your players leaving the town and going to explore. That is wonderful. And okay, let's say the last thing I'll throw at you now is the players are traveling between towns and they are sort of going about their business. Yeah. And you want there to be something on the road, okay? Something happens on the journey. Right. What would you do? What would your first impression be? You need a little quest hook.
So again, I quite like that escort mission. So they have to help someone get to the capital, someone to get to Gold Throne. But the main route is through the mountain pass, and they want to be there extra early. Maybe it's a meeting or something like that they have to be at. So they have to travel through the night, and during the night they can choose whether to push on or to camp. But if they camp, there's more likely to be attacked by the pack of frostbiters that's been sighted in the area.
That is absolutely perfect. The other place that you can look as well, if you need a little bit of help, is Appendix B in the Dungeon Master Guide. Although there are, again, you can Google this sort of stuff all the time. It's on page 302, and it's got a lovely list of monsters per type of environment, and then it sort of rates them by challenge rating, for instance. So we could say maybe we're going through a mountainous area, mountain monsters. We're going to say we want a couple of like 8th level challenges: Bloodhawks, Guards, Kobolds, Sturges, Tribal Warriors. You could take the Tribal Warrior stat and you could put it as a pack of outlaws or bandits that try and assault them, or the Frostbiters as you've got them, attack. All kinds of sort of bits and pieces. Perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great little world. I'm looking forward to playing it. I might take you up on this.
All right. Well, yeah, that was really easy. But to be fair, you were asking me lots of questions where I was like,
The questions I'm asking, all I was doing is I was literally going through chapters 1 and 3 in the Dungeon Master's Guide and just little plot points that asks you about like the name, the atmosphere, the government style. I'm just doing that. And as I say, it's easier if you just write little notes on each topic and don't worry about the detail too much and just keep circling around, because if you do something, it'll probably give you an idea for something else, and that'll probably flesh in a third thing, which will flesh in the first thing you looked at. These things quickly build.
Okay, great. Well, I guess then we'll stop here for now, and then next time, as you said, we'll go through the bigger world and going small, which equally scares me. Brilliant. So, Ryan, just before we go quickly, is there anything you'd like to plug? Anything you found interesting in the last, 2 weeks since I last spoke to you?
Oh, well, life is interesting at the moment, isn't it, with lockdowns and US elections. But I think, generally speaking, I've really enjoyed getting back into reading, actually. So it's been really good to get back and read some Robin Hobb, which I'm getting back into, which is very good.
Nice.
But if you want to come and say hello to me, I have a Discord called the Ursa Ryan Discord. You should come and say hello. You can find me on YouTube. I'm Ursa Ryan, and we've also got our old TBA Mondays, YouTube channel if you want to come and have a look at some of the old D&D we used to put up. Hey, come and pester us to resume it, and I'm sure maybe one day we'll start putting it back up. And
fingers crossed.
when jobs change and everything.
Exactly, yeah. And my name's Fiona. I run the What Am I Rolling podcast. As always, it's going very, very well. I got... I don't know if I ever told you, Ryan. So someone contacted me to review the system, and they said, we'd also like to send you some free books. And they sent me, I don't have them to hand typically, but I got 2 free graphic novels.
Wow.
I know. I feel like I've made it somehow.
That's amazing. Oh my God, you're becoming well known in the world. This is great.
I feel sick because as imposter syndrome. Oh, never mind. Look.
You can't even say it. It's that difficult to get out.
It's so difficult. Yeah. I can't. Okay.
Right. Well, you go get some rest because you've got a world to make next session.
Well, until next time, we will talk to you guys then.
Indeed. Speak soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.